students of Reddit, what is something your teacher did that really peed the whole class? In GCSE English he taught us the wrong novel for almost the entire term. We read this book over and over, answered essays and studied every significant narrative meaning. Apparently none of the faculty heads had checked up on him until about 6 weeks before our exams, when they realized all our work was on a book not even on the syllabus and all our time was effectively wasted. So to rectify it, we lost all our pay lessons, had to stay late after school 3 days a week and spend 3 out of 5 lunch breaks cram learning the actual book with another teacher. Safe to say our class wasn't happy at all and most parents complained as it could affect our ability to pass the exams. Head teacher of my high school tried to expel me for having an epileptic seizure in front of him. Said I was a danger and distraction to others' pupils and was disrupting his school. I ended up being kept out of school for 2 months while my parents fought my case. In that time almost all of the rest of the teaching staff, who were furious with this decision, kept me supplied with work and even one-to-one tutoring when needed. This was in a rural area where the next nearest school was 40 miles away, so we had no other school choice. 40-degree weather Celsius in outback Australia and she wouldn't turn on the aircon in class even though it worked. Her reason was that when she was young she didn't have an aircon, and she survived. All the students hated her. Mine was the reverse. Middle of winter up in the Blue Mountains. B wouldn't turn the heater on in the mornings because she grew up without heated classrooms. And it's like, yeah, but you guys also were allowed to wear giant freaking coats, were you not? At university, my professor did not tell us the time of our examination, despite numerous emails from 20 odd students, as well as the head professor of the course. This exam could have been any time from 9 AM to 5 PM. And I lived 90 minutes from campus and relied on crap public transport to get into uni. It got to 9 PM the day before the exam. No one knew when the exam would be, and if we missed it we would fail the whole module. So I took the train to the city where my uni is, booked a cheap, crappy hotel room for the night, just to make sure I was there on time. We all took the exam at 12 PM, after getting an email an hour before the exam was being held, so I wouldn't have made it in time if I stayed at home. Worst part was that no one cared, not the professor, the course lead, or the head of our school. They all just left 30 students in the lurch, allowing them to potentially fail the exam and therefore the module. In my second semester of my first year of law school, everyone in my class, 80 plus people, had to take a research class. This class was taught by 4 different law librarians but followed the same syllabus. It was also worth 1 credit. These librarians ran the class as if it was 3 credits. We had to read, conduct legal research, and write 2 memos throughout the semester, when we had 5 other classes, all within the 2-4 credit range. Plus one specific class was notoriously difficult. Anyway, halfway through the semester, my class gets peed at the workload to credit ratio and someone starts a petition to reduce the number of assignments and or change the grading for the class from a letter grade to pass-fail. Almost the entire class signs. There were a few holdouts. The student who started the petition delivers it to the librarians. The librarians remove 1 or 2 assignments, but otherwise disregard the petition. Those who signed all awkwardly suffered through the rest of the semester. Forced us to make a donation to a charity. When I didn't bring anything in, I got a demerit. Had to argue that not everyone has the ability to give something away. She then told me off for back chatting in front of the class. Everyone was like, WTF. My work sent me on 3-day advanced Adobe Illustrator course last April in London, and just before the exam, the tutor said, "Oh, by the way, there may be a few questions on this exam that we haven't talked about, just do your best." What the actual frick, my work has just paid £1,000 for this. His response was that he can't be expected to teach everything. There was about 6 students in the class and we were all pretty peed. Can't be expected to teach everything. Yes, he is. It's his job. Make everyone come to college from 10 o'clock till 11:30 to hold presentations. Be 45 minutes late. Not tell students they aren't allowed to see each of the students' presentations and thus make them be at school at 10 o'clock without reason. Somehow take up 3x the amount of allocated time per presentation group. Finish at 1800 hours instead of 11:30. Let most of the student fail or just barely pass, in that particular order. She didn't believe in field trips because she said that kids would have too much fun and learning isn't supposed to be fun. However, the entire grade would take the trip, so she was required to take us. So she would make us all sit in a common area of the zoo, museum, etc. and she would hold classroom lessons. It was so upsetting to hear about all the cool things the other kids got to see while we had class. The fact that I still remember things I learned on fun field trips compared to the countless times I was in a classroom says a lot. He would act like he was enlightened and say crap like video games rot your brain. All your free time should be spent on education, as that is all that matters, but then during the lessons he would go completely off topic and start talking about random crap. Apparently he is making a board game that could compete with chess because he is just that brilliant. Screamed at the class because he assumed that an intermittent beeping sound that occurred throughout the lecture was somebody receiving texts. It was the projector that he was using, alerting him to the fact that it was overheating. Dumbass. That's almost as good as the time a substitute tried to confiscate a student's phone when it beeped. It was a diabetes thing attached to the student's body. I had a college professor who was teaching a history course to a bunch of education majors in their junior year. She would ask us questions all the time about things she hadn't yet lectured on and then pull the "really? No one knows the answer to this? Well, I guess we'll just wait for someone to answer." We were all education majors. We knew that trick. We waited her out every single time. She always broke first. Our French teacher held a 5-minute detention for the entire class because we waited outside the classroom for her to let us in. You know, like polite kids do. She claimed we were wasting her time and sent a detention note home to all the parents. Better still, on results day she said, "Wow, I didn't expect you to get an A." During English controlled assessments she would play whale noises in the background to help us focus. We were about 10-11 years old. It was the last period of the day and the music teacher was subbing our science class. He was sitting on the computer and we were all getting on with work. Towards the end of the period our homeroom teacher comes into the classroom and exclaims, "It's the end of the day. Why are you all not packed up?" To which the music teacher replied, "I told them and they refused to." Excuse you. He hadn't said a thing to us, so we all protested. Even so, our homeroom teacher told us off for being disobedient as the music teacher slithered out of the room and we had to stay 10 minutes late as punishment. Lying snake. Spent the entire semester in uni telling us half the material would not be on the semester exam. Guess what? All the material was on the semester exam and it tanked all of our scores because the professor was a dong and hated that people go to uni to get a qualification for a job. He hated anyone in his class that didn't aspire towards a career in academia. The class was doing a project on criminal justice and held a mock trial. My friend got assigned to play the role of a sexual assault victim. In real life, she had been a victim of an assault that was very similar to that of the character. She felt it would be too emotionally draining and tried to get out of the part. The teacher wanted an explanation, but my friend kept saying it was very personal. This went back and forth a few times over the next 2 days and it was just not clicking in the teacher's head. Finally he lost his patience and yelled out, "You are holding up this whole project for everyone. Why the heck is this so difficult for you?" With the whole class paying attention, she admitted she had been sexually assaulted the same way this character had, and went to go cry. They changed the topic of the project after that, but the class never really looked at the teacher the same way again. Not just the whole class, but the whole school. She got a bunch of teachers fired because of petty office politics, and those teachers were older and more beloved than her. Gave a C to an 85+% test because she gives grades relative to the average performance of a student. Teacher spent weeks teaching us the Schindler method of learning about natural science instead of teaching from the book. On test day, he gave us the test that came with the teacher's version of the book, so we'd never even covered the info on the test. We all scored very poorly but learned to ignore him in class and study the book on our own. My German teacher would make you retake spelling tests until you got 100%. Once you did, you could sit and do whatever you like until the whole class got 100%. This caused a lot of pressure on everyone as he used to belittle the students who didn't pass first or the second time. If you was the only one left, he would stand over you and watch you struggle. One test day I decided to bunk off and I got caught. I burst into tears and explained how horrible this teacher was and that I'm never going back into his class. I was moved into a higher set German class with an amazing teacher and my German improved. This was second year in school. My teacher, unable to manage 20 of these rowdy kids, is pretty enraged by the end of the class. She has a thing about counting every piece of equipment after class, and she begins counting the Newton meters. Now, if you don't know what these are, they are literally a metal spring with plastic around it that measures how much an item weighs. This teacher counted 19, when there was definitely 20, so she holds us back from lunch. She brings the faculty head in, and we get a bollocking from her. Cannot steal from the school, unjust yada yada. If we were rowdy before, we're aging now. And she requests the least well-behaved kids open their bags. Of course these kids are protesting, but the teacher offers detention if they don't comply. So after rummaging through a bunch of pubescent kids' bags and finding nothing, she finally goes back to her desk to find the Newton meter sitting behind her world's best teacher mug. Look on her face. Priceless. When I was a sophomore in high school there was a shooting at an elementary school in my town. I'm sure you could figure out which one. And we went into lockdown. My math teacher proceeded to hand out the test we were supposed to take that day and told us to have it done by the end of the lockdown drill. No matter how many students complained or tried to tell her what was going on at the elementary school, she remained adamant that it was just a drill. Even when they started reporting death counts, none of us looked at her the same afterwards. Gave us an important test on the last day of school only to cancel it even though we had wasted all our previous evening revising. This maths teacher had a reputation for being a hard ass and gave a lot of spontaneous tests. He played up one specific revision test, which was right before midterm or final I think, as being a really big deal where the result would reflect whether you have any potential in the subject and the usual dramatic spiel. After we did them he went on holiday and took the tests with him to correct. Sucker forgot to bring them back and nobody ever got their result. Another bonus. This same teacher had a double period before a double period of gym and sometimes 10 minutes before the bell goes he's just say we haven't covered enough. So instead of gym you'll have another double maths now. She ended up leaving for her vacation earlier than she thought so our final projects needed to be done 3 days early. Not a big deal if she hadn't told us with 2 days notice. I don't get how teachers get away with this crap. We had our teachers change the exam topic. I took graphic design as a GCSE. My practice exam was an A grade. They then changed the exam to resistant materials with about 2 weeks notice. I ended up with a C grade in my GCSE. Only one person got to do the exam we studied for because their mother went ballistic. Numerous times they failed students at an exam, then publicly admitting that passing 40-50% of students that took the exam would be too much, and that's considered normal behavior. Got caught on my phone in class, took it away and put it in her drawer and manages to lose it. Everyone gets searched apart from her and she was a supply teacher. Still infuriates me to this day. I was in year 7. I once got my 3DS taken and when I got it back the admin at the front desk said that they played it and ruined whatever I was doing. I was rightly peeved but I didn't want to get into any more trouble. Turned off the AC to punish the people passing notes. Man, we had a teacher for our lab who, when the class started talking even a little, would turn off all the 4 fans except for the 5th one which was right above him. She yelled at my friend for missing so much class. He was obviously at chemo. He looked like it. The whole school knew, including faculty, and he said I have cancer and walked out. He died 3 months later of leukemia. He wouldn't let the class go until everyone rolled some dice and if you got 6 on any of the 2 you could leave. I got so many tardy slips and call homes because of him. I had one of those teachers that just put a bunch of activities on the board and browse something on their laptops all lesson. Worst part was, it was a maths teacher. The only thing she'd do was maybe tell us to shut up once or twice, apart from one time. Possibly after one of us had had a word with someone about how little she did, she suddenly snapped and sent the entire class outside until we were ready to do work. We all just laughed our asses off and browsed our phones. The ones who actually cared about algebra went back in, until the teacher decided to come and check on us. She just stood there. We were all completely silent. until I decided to break the silence. Nice of you to join us. Oh boy. Basically after that we compiled a doc of what she'd been doing so we could have a talk with a dean or something about what had been going on. But not before someone accidentally shared it with the teacher. And so for the last term she was with us she improved. Math teacher. Class, it's test time. But professor, you said yesterday that today we wouldn't have to take a test. Correct. You will not take a test. You will take 2 1-hour tests in a single hour. Oh, this one's a favorite. Post-English class. Break starts. I remain at my desk and do the homework the teacher assigned. Break ends. Teacher comes back. Sees I've done the homework already. She waits for all the class to come back. Then she shouts, since Emeril 1391 has already done the homework, you all get 2 extra pages. Needless to say, that didn't improve my bullying situation. The teachers who would spend half of the class time getting people to wear their uniforms correctly in the UKBTW and then not have enough time to cover all the topic for the day, usually leaving us severely behind or backed up with homework. No one cares that someone hasn't got their tie the right effing length or their shirt tucked in. What makes it more of a joke is they say not having uniform will cause distractions, yet not once on a non-school uniform day did we have anything like that happen. Not a teacher but the administration had all of us in middle school wear student IDs on a lanyard color coded by what hallway your classes were in every single day. Sparked massive actual protests from the students, because even though my town is pretty low on crime rates, that administration, middle school and above, essentially treated every kid like they were either already a criminal or had the strong potential to be. There were so many protests on the lanyard BS they stopped doing it after winter break, because it'd be bad publicity if they kept giving out detentions for insubordination the way they were. They also did things like assigned seating at lunch and forced the middle schoolers who wanted to go see the high school football games to be fenced in so as not to cause trouble. Told us the other class was better. The other class was told the same thing. Maths teacher, GCSE year. Teacher gave us a piece of coursework that we had a month to do. We weren't the brightest bunnies at math in that particular class, just under average, but somehow every single student in that class decided we were going to go above and beyond to try and up our grade. We collectively pulled together and worked our asses off, some of us going without sleep at times so we could work on it and provide help to the others, myself included. When we handed in our coursework there was a pretty good feeling in the class. We thought we had done well and were pleased with ourselves. When we got our papers back we all got higher grades than usual and in many cases did even better than we hoped, myself included. Then teacher informed us that the coursework was only mock and didn't count for anything. We now had to do the real coursework in the span of 2 weeks. There wasn't a riot. Everyone just went quiet. We were collectively stunned in disbelief. No one said anything at all. We simply couldn't believe it. Over the next 2 weeks I was pretty much crying every night. I'd burned myself out over the mock and was just too tired. I had also been recently diagnosed with CFS which didn't help my concentration or mood at all. I wasn't the only one either. Everyone else was having issues and all the camaraderie we had built up over the month previous just dissolved. Handed in my coursework after the fortnight was up and then went and cried in the girls' toilets because I knew it was awful, especially compared to the mock I had been so proud of. The results from that were nearly all below our usual grades. I just about scrapped my old average. Teacher then rubbed salt in the wound by saying she was disappointed in all of us. No one had the energy to argue. We just took it. I think one person tried complaining to the head teacher afterwards, but nothing came of it. For extra injury, that teacher had several maths classes, but we were the only one she pulled that stunt on. You have been visited by the rare garlic doggo. If you subscribe to AskReddit you will have good luck for 69 years. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.